Um, I'm planning to make videos on how to craft gear for endgame Cold Dot. And in this video, I'm gonna show you how to make a ring like this. You can even make a better ring, but that would be uh, much more expensive, and it's going to cost you another 20-30 divines. But as you can see, in this ring right here has two essence modifiers, which one is going to be the cold damage and one is going to be the damage over time multiplier. And on top of that, it has maximum life with regenerate mana per second, and it also has some chaos resistance and an empty prefix for you to craft minus mana cost. The reason why you want to have minus mana cost is because Vortex requires you a lot of mana, and the same goes for Cold Snap. And this build has struggles a lot with mana regeneration. And also, when you have mageblood, you are going to have this craft with the reduced mana cost of skills, so that this build is actually decent, so that you can play it without having to worry about mana, because we don't use a mana flask, but we have mana issues. Anyway, let's show you how to make this item real quick. Um I advise you to go for this type of craft only on an opal, or if needed for chaos res to make it to hit your maximum chaos res, just use it on an amethyst. In my case here, I just use an amethyst and an opal. Now I'm going to show how to make an opal ring. The process is still the same, but the base is going to be more expensive. Um, as you can see, here there are modifiers. Increased cold damage is going to be an essence mod. This can be rolled with an essence of hatred, which means it's going to be much cheaper. If you cannot find a base with a fractured increased cold damage, or uh, a damage over time multiplier fractured on an opal ring, what you have to do now, in my case, I bought this base, but if there is none on the market, this is how you craft it. You go to, I'm going to show you in the emulator. Um, so keep in mind, if there is no base available on the market, you start with Essence of Delirium, which is like this, and you spam it until you hit 15% damage over time multiplier. Once you hit 15% damage over time multiplier, you make sure that you have 4 modifiers. If you have more than 4 modifiers, you have to annul and hope that it doesn't remove this modifier. So basically, you have to end up with a ring that looks like this, and the tire is 15% damage over time multiplier. Then what you would do, you would use a fracturing orb and hope that it gives you damage over time multiplier. If it doesn't give you damage over time multiplier, you just start again. And here we hit it in the second try. Now what you do, you go to essences and you go to deafening essence of woe. Um, if excuse me, if you have the fracture with damage over time multiplier, you can spam deafening essence of hatred. Excuse me, deafening essence of hatred until you hit tier 1 chaos resistance, because these are cheap essences. You pay like 3 chaos for a deafening, maybe even less. But if you buy the base with the fractured increased cold damage, then you only spam delirium essences until you get uh, until you get 15 damage over time multiplier and an empty suffix. It's very important that you get an empty suffix. Um, and here I will show you how to actually craft it. Let's just assume that now we are crafting with delirium essences, because if you were to use hatred, you just spam until you hit tier 1 called chaos resistance. Uh, Now let's just assume that we this is reversed and this is the fractured, and this is not fractured, and your ring would look like this. So let's just assume that. What you would do at this point, if you have an empty prefix, you would go to the bench, and then you would craft suffixes cannot be changed. In this case, you cannot use the beast that gives you suffixes cannot be changed because you have an empty suffix. So you have to keep that in mind. Then you would go to harvest, and you would add remove chaos. When you add remove chaos, the only chaos modifier that can give you is chaos resistance. It cannot give you a prefix. It has to give you a chaos resistance. So you repeat this process until you get tier 2, tier 1, whatever you're happy with, and it helps you reach the cap. This is an endgame craft, but this is how you do it. So you would spam this. So let's just say that this happens. Uh, you have this chaos resistance. What do you do from here? Well, you have to use an orb of annulment. This is how you reverse it, and hope that it removes the chaos resistance and it doesn't take away the damage over time multiplier. If it takes away the craft, that's unlucky, and if it takes away the damage over time multiplier, that's also unlucky. You have to repeat the process, but basically, um, you have to do you have to get rid of the chaos resistance that you don't want, and also keep the damage over time multiplier or the increased cold damage, depends on what fracture you have. Now let's just add any random prefix. If you don't, if you end up in a situation like this where uh, you remove the chaos, but you also don't have uh, uh, any any prefix, you have to go to remove the crafted suffixes cannot be changed. Then you craft any suffix, it doesn't matter which one. Then you would go and add suffixes cannot be changed once again. So no, you would go add any suffix like this, use an exalt, then you would go add suffixes cannot be changed, then you will once again go to harvest and you would add remove. It's very important that you use add remove and you don't use reforge, because what happens when you use reforge, there's a chance that it will give you three prefixes, and it will also guarantee the third suffix, so it can break your item. So this is why this is expensive, and even tier 2 it's going to be good enough. Like this, I would say that this ring right here it's good enough. um, at this point, if you still have suffixes cannot be changed, you're good to go. But if you don't, what you would do, um, here's where you actually decide whether or not you want it to make you want to make it the best of the best, or you can just settle. If you want to settle, you would use an exalt, then you would use Aishling Veil, and it would give you a veiled prefix. Now let me check real quick what we need to block. Um, so for those of you that don't know how veiled modifiers blocking works, basically we are looking, this is a veiled prefix. So the craft that we are interested in is this craft right here. It has a 43% chance of occurring and has a weight of 1000, and its ID, its tag, it's 5, is the number 5. Um, these right here, there are three different crafted modifiers. Each has a weighting of 600 and an occurring rate of 28%, but they have the same ID, the same number right here. That means added together, it's a weighting of 1800. So this weighting right here, instead of being 6800, it is going to be 5000 if we craft any of these modifier, because they all have the same ID. 6 times 3 is going to be 1800. um, 600 times 3 is going to be 1800. um, for example, if you look at this one, it has a higher weighting, much higher chance of appearing, but at the same time it's only one tag. whereas this one are there are three modifiers with the same tag. So what we would we would go to crafting bench, craft the mana, and now it's a very high chance that we will get maximum life and mana generate per second. And since we already have a crafted prefix, we can put the mana cost like this. If you want to make the best of the best rings, probably what you would you'd start with not tier 1 chaos resistance, but tier 1, let's just say. Um, let's go to suffixes and the chaos resistance. Let's just say you are going to go for tier 1 chaos resistance because you want to make the best ring possible. Um, let's remove the prefixes. Let's just say that you have one prefix. You would go to the bench. At this point, you can use the beast because you already have three suffixes. Craft suffixes cannot be changed. You would first you would use an Aisling and hope it removes the suffix, it removes the other modifier and not the suffixes cannot be changed. Um, or actually, uh, you you have to go scouring. Excuse me. You have to go scouring. Then you have to go once again suffixes cannot be changed. At this point, because it's a cold dot ring, the only prefix that could actually benefit us would be maximum energy shield. Uh, Other than that, nothing is pretty useful here. Maybe for some other build, some evasion rating would be good, or uh, elemental damage with attacks, or fizz leached. But in our case, it's going to be maximum energy shield because we also have like 2k energy shield in endgame, uh, almost 2k. So we with craft suffixes cannot be changed. We don't have any other prefix uh, modifier. We have three perfect suffixes, and we would use add remove defense and hope for a higher tire energy shield. As you can see, this process right here is very expensive. What you would do at this point, once again, craft suffixes cannot be changed with the beast. You would go with Aisling Veil, hope that it doesn't remove the maximum energy shield. Once again, you would go to the crafting bench, craft one of those three modifiers like this, and hope that it unveils the maximum life and mana generated per second. And then you would craft non-channeling skills have minus mana cost. This this type of craft it's super expensive and it only gives you around 30 to 50 maximum energy shield, but it's probably going to burn you to 20, 30, 40 divines just for that much energy shield. But this is if you really want to push the envelope. This is how you do it. Personally, I just stick with this ring because it's good enough. But if you want to make the best of the best, this is how you make it.